It takes a billionth of a second for light to travel 30 centimeters. It takes 15/100ths of a second to strike a typewriter key. It takes 6/10ths of a second to walk 1 pace. It takes 5 seconds for the sound of thunder to travel 1 mile. It takes 1 minute for the human heart to beat 75 times. To the old, it is fleeting. To the young, it is boundless. But for most of us in between, time is relentless and uncontrollable, a source of endless frustration.
The order over, but it was shipped out to you. I think you should go through your warehouse and pick it out. Yes, can you get Carlson?
No, he's out sick today.
Well, see if you can get Reese and...
I need you to okay these lino proofs.
Just leave them there.
No,
okay.
I can't. I've got a driver standing by. I need it okay right away.
Oh, dear.
Okay, I understand. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, they're okay. Yeah.
You forgot to sign this requisition.
What is it? We should have it to you by Wednesday.
You got a second?
That's physically impossible.
That Knudsen job is printing too high.
Well, go ahead and tell him to split the stock.
Okay.
I apologize. Yes.
Coleman's on the line. He says you sent him black and white on a color job.
Well, check the ticket. See if he ordered a color piece.
Oh, he did. I just checked it.
Take a look at that border.
It's off register.
I know, but the inset's fine.
Well, how long would it take to make another plate?
2-3 hours.
Really?
Excuse me 1 second. Look, I have Ken Hallowell on the line. He wants to know when he can expect his order.
Well, tell him that you'll get back.
Well, wait a minute. What do you want me to do about this job? If we don't keep these printing presses running, we aren't going to get any order shipped. We
Well,
got
just tell him that you'll get back to it. Look.
Well, what are we going to do about this job?
I tried to talk to him.
Forget Ken Hallowell.
Look, he won't listen to me. He wants to talk to you.
Well, man,
That's not my problem.
And we're 2 days behind.
I tried to appease him, but he wouldn't.
Number 501 just broke down.
There's a lot of them.
All I need is one.
If only we had the power to stop the relentless flow of time. Then we could pause and think. Then we could master the events which threaten to overwhelm us. To control time has been a persistent dream, a dream which seemed attainable when we first discovered how to measure time. Calendars were originally devised to help us chart the regular passage of time and to forecast recurring natural events. For the Egyptians, being able to predict when the annual flooding of the Nile would fertilize their fields made their farming more reliable and more productive. The development of clocks has allowed us to measure time with ever-increasing precision. As recently as the 18th century, clocks had no second hand. Today, we can divide time into billionths of a second. The ability to measure and organize time has been a crucial element in the growth of our industrial society. But for these obvious benefits, we have paid a price. Dr. Edward T. Hall, anthropologist.
Well, in my opinion, Western man has created a time system that is alienated from himself. In the old days, when human beings timed themselves in terms of their internal rhythms, such as the heartbeat and the daily rhythms of waking and sleeping, timing was an internal process. With the Industrial Revolution, we started to move time from the inside to the outside. And man had to phase himself with a whistle and with a clock on the wall. This means that we have changed the controls from inside of man to outside of himself. And in the process, we have created a time prison. The bars are real. They're invisible, but they might as well be of steel.
In his early film, Metropolis, Fritz Lang presented a powerful image of the time prison. In this nightmare world, the clocks that man devised to help him master time have become his master. As our jobs become more mechanized, rigid schedules and deadlines pervade our lives.
The earliest you can get a campsite will be July 6th.
Even some vacations must be scheduled weeks in advance by computer.
All filled up. Everything is solid.
There's only 7 seconds left, and Jones has the rebound.
More and more of what we do seems to be a race against the clock.
At the dome, the time will be 10:02. Exactly.
2 seconds. Miller, shoot! It's good!
When time pressures become too great, we must periodically free ourselves from the tyranny of the clock, to find time that is ours to spend as we choose, to be, as it were, on our own internal clock. Time is a subjective experience. We have all had moments when time seems to fly, and others when 5 seconds seems to last an eternity. That our sense of time can vary tremendously is no illusion. Einstein's theory of relativity states that actual physical time is not constant, that time is relative.
In the world of physics, we're now used to the idea that time is relative. We're going to have to get used to another notion, too, and that is that time in the world of man is relative. Each culture has its own time system, as though each culture existed in a separate universe of time.
For many American Indians, time is organized almost entirely around the lives of their animals. In some West African societies, a week may last as long as onions are available. When cabbage comes in, a new week begins. For Buddhists, meditation is a way to step out of the flow of daily events and alter their experience of time.
As we move from our own culture to cultures overseas, this time to get to know another human being is imperative. Without taking that time, without contexting ourselves in the other culture and in the other human being, you simply cut off your nose to spite your face. In other words, you cannot do business without taking time in a foreign culture.
Existen diferencias básicas en respecto a tiempo, y uno de los ejemplos...
According to Ferro Pallai, a consultant to Americans in Mexico, cultural differences regarding time play a part in business. It is not unusual to be kept waiting for several hours to see an important official. If we do not understand that this is common practice, we may be offended, and these misunderstandings may lead to resentment and conflict. Just as there are cultural differences in how time is perceived, there are also personal differences. Edward Hall has identified 2 personality types with regard to time: displaced and diffused. A displaced point person will invariably arrive early for an appointment. A diffused point person will arrive anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes late. but will also think of himself as being on time.
Well, I'm supposed to be here about 10 to 20 minutes ago.
The first considers the other rude, while the second considers the first to be compulsive. Both feel that their own approach to time is natural and right.
It's a little bit too late for that now. We've probably lost it.
When these two personality types cross paths, there is usually friction.
Now, I'd like to know what is entailed in the inspection so I know what to correct. I know it probably, since it's a Pennsylvania bus, it probably doesn't have a smog device. So I know I'd have to put a smog device on it, but I need to know...
There are situations where it is unavoidable that we lose control of how our time is spent, where we are, in effect, forced to abide by someone else's clock. To lose our autonomy in this way can be very exasperating.
And will I have to have it painted before it's inspected?
It doesn't have to be painted.
Okay, well, I didn't know whether it was required or not.
But we don't...
Okay, you don't require it? Okay, then now what do I do if I should decide...
Hello. Hey, who is this?
Time is a communication. It's a form of language.
What's the matter? Is anything wrong? Are you nuts? It's 2 o'clock in the morning.
A telephone call at 2 o'clock in the morning has a very, very different meaning than a telephone call at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Whether we realize it or not, we are communicating to other people all the time by the way in which we handle time.
Even though we are not often aware of time as a language, its messages speak louder than words.
Hey, have you seen Nurse Ferguson?
Oh, she's in there with Dr. Donnelly.
Oh, yeah? I've been looking for her for the last hour.
No, they've been in there longer than that.
Really?
Something must be up.
Must be.
We may perceive a hidden meaning in something as simple as the length of a meeting.
Oh, excuse me, doctor. I wonder if I could talk to you for a minute. It's kind of important. There's some talk going around about cutting back on the staff.
I'm sorry, I can't now. I'm being paged. I'll be back at 3 o'clock.
But I'll be off duty then.
Well, if it's important, you can talk to me after you get off duty. I'll see you then.
When we can't give people the time they want, they may get the message we don't care about them.
Hi, Karen.
We may also unconsciously assert power and status.
Oh, Dan?
Yeah?
I need you to transfer a patient from room 437 right away.
Okay, as soon as I take my break.
I'm sorry, but this can't wait. You'll have to take your break later.
Oh, look, I've been on since 6:30. I gotta go have my lunch.
Look, move the patient and then take your break, okay?
Often, our use of time may be a quite conscious and deliberate way to express our true feelings about another person.
Hold that elevator.
Oh, sure.
Hold the elevator.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not too fast on your feet these days.
No, it's my hip. It's really been bothering me lately. Say, you don't know the name of a good chiropractor, do you?
I don't have enough doctors on this ward as it is, and I don't even have enough hours in the day to get my work done. So where am I going to find the time to listen to all the bickering that goes on around here? I don't know about anybody else. I just don't have time for it.
It's like they're making you wait just to, I don't know, like to prove how important they are or something. It's like they're on a big ego trip, you know?
I'm sick of putting up with all the around here. They're always telling you to go here, go there, especially the nurses. They think they're such hot stuff. But they never tell you when you can take your break. I'm telling you, the idea is my time is your time. It really chaps my... You know, when I first started working here, I thought it was great. I mean, it was great to help people. I really cared. Now, you know, it's just a job.
When people feel rebellious or bored, they may be flagrantly unproductive, deliberately misusing their time as a way to communicate their resentment. Most of us think we spend more time working productively than in fact we do. Consultant Peter Drucker suggests that people write down how they think they spend their time, then keep a log of how their time is actually spent. It is often a rude awakening for people to learn where their time really goes.
I found a cigarette.
Interruptions. Talking to others is such a natural activity that we overlook how much time it consumes. Elaborate preparations. For some of us, getting ready to work can take as much time as the work itself. Meetings. Many of us are often called away from our desks to attend meetings that are routine, unnecessary, and unproductive. Daydreaming. It serves a vital psychological function. However, it can easily become a bad habit when indulged in beyond our need. Cramming. To make up for lost time, we may try to do 6 things at once, none of them well. Patricia Wiskasil, Vice President, First Los Angeles Bank.
I think sometimes sense of urgency distorts priorities, and it's important to take a look at the urgent situation that's come up and take a few minutes to ask questions about it. For instance, what will happen if I don't react quickly? Will there be a great money loss? Will there be a fantastic opportunity lost? Will there be a security problem for the organization? Sometimes it's very important to get more information about the urgent thing that's cropped up. If we continue to react to those urgent things, the important things may never get accomplished.
Very good. Fine. Yes, you'd like to order a...
Doing the job right is essential, but even more essential is doing the right job. No matter how efficient we may be, our efforts are of little use unless directed at the right goal. Having clear priorities allows us to direct our energy toward our most important work.
Tax, which would be 4%.
We don't have much time. Okay?
Knowing our priorities may be pointless if our days are so fragmented that we can never concentrate on our priority tasks.
But this one's going to be...
Malcolm Northrup, Executive Vice President, Rockwell International.
It's mandatory that we have time to do the creative parts of our job. When I have people working for me who are stopping and thinking and not constantly doing a task, I'm not very worried about that. In today's environment of knowledge work, it's mandatory that we indeed do have time to do the knowledge part of the business and not just the busy work or the tasks that are at hand.
To be an effective manager requires much more than performing and doing. It requires the ability to conceptualize about the big picture and the long-term goals of the organization. And that isn't possible if you're always doing and never taking any time out to think.
Get him to tell you where we stand on stage 2.
He doesn't respond. Every time I call his secretary...
One of the best ways to find time to think is to delegate work to others. This obvious but often overlooked time saver can give us a significant period of time in which to tackle a difficult problem.
Martha, I don't want to be disturbed for the next half an hour, so hold all calls, will you?
5 or 10 minutes scattered throughout the day are not nearly as effective as a single block of uninterrupted time. Some managers have informally instituted quiet hours when they systematically shut themselves off from all distractions in order to deal in depth with their most important work. The quiet hour has psychological as well as practical benefits. Simply taking charge of our time and imposing a structure on it often puts us in a positive frame of mind. The quiet hour is most useful if scheduled at that time of day when our energy and concentration are at their peak.
One real time management problem with many executives is overcommitment. They make the mistake of scheduling 100% of their time every day. That's a great fantasy to believe that everything is going to go as allocated with your schedule. But in reality, nothing is going to go completely right in any day. There are always going to be disruptions. And if you keep a tight schedule, you're only going to be frustrated and raise more havoc on yourself than necessary. I personally recommend never scheduling more than 50% of your day. I realize this isn't always possible for some of us, but it's a good part of departure. Now, many of us have plenty of time, but we put off doing things till the last minute because we delude ourselves by telling ourselves, I do my best work under pressure. Well, that's really a myth. It's just a rationalization to justify something that's called procrastination, which is another real time management problem.
Even when we have created blocks of time in which to do an important project, if we cannot get started on the work, our preparations have been in vain. Procrastination usually comes about when we feel a conflict over the work to be done. Some part of us wants to do the task, while another part of us feels angry, preoccupied, fearful, or incompetent. We may doubt our ability or fear being judged. Perhaps we would simply prefer to be doing something else. To escape our uncomfortable feelings, it is amazing how absorbed we can become in peripheral activities. No matter how ingeniously we avoid work, we know that sooner or later it has to be done. Procrastination is a vicious cycle. Not doing what we should be doing makes us increasingly anxious, and this anxiety, in turn, makes it more difficult to focus our attention on the task at hand. We become paralyzed, as it were, unable to work and unable to do anything else either. According to Newton's law of inertia, a body at rest tends to remain at rest, and a body in motion tends to remain in motion. Newton's law of inertia also applies to procrastination. When we are intimidated by a project, it can be helpful to break it down into smaller, more manageable units so that it does not seem quite so overwhelming. Once we get started, our momentum can often carry us through.
When you stop and think about it, procrastination is really central to the whole problem of time management because of the conflicts created by the anxiety and the guilt that we feel from not acting. It's important to realize that none of us can be productive all the time. And it's also important to realize that we have a need to not be productive. Take time out for yourself. It's important to satisfy both the need to be productive and a need to have time for you.
I found it to be necessary in my case to make an absolutely clean break between the work demands and the time that I have at home. Everybody has to have some time that is uniquely their own. Everyone has two kinds of clocks to satisfy. One is the demands of the clock at work, and the other is your personal demands.
I hear a lot of executives talking about the fact that they'd like to jog or play tennis or golf, but they never have any time. Well, the reason they don't have any time is because they haven't planned for that time. And when you don't plan for time to take care of your own personal needs, my sense is that you can't be an effective manager, because without taking care of those things, there's no perspective.
As we learn to take charge of how our time is spent, we begin to free ourselves from the restraints of time. We need to be realistic about the demands of other people, but we also need to accommodate these demands to our own sense of time, to our own pace, to our own rhythms, to live, as it were, by our own clock.
You just listen up.
This guy spent a lot of money in this company, as I said.
Why don't you hold on the job? I don't care about Hollowell.
I'm trying to explain this to you.
Still holding on line 3.
Going out on trucks.
Wait a minute. Hold it. Hold everything. Now, I can't do everything all at the same time. And please tell Gilmore I'll call him back in about 10 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Tell Hollowell we'll ship part of the order tomorrow and the rest of it Thursday.
Okay.
Tell George that the TCR job will have to wait for an hour while he makes you a new plate. We just can't afford 2 hours downtime on this job.
Okay, we'll squeeze it in.